She saved a CIA agent in 2 minutes after a famous ER doctor called her useless in front of everyone. Rachel Whitmore looked like a quiet nurse in bright blue scrubs, the kind of woman people ignored until they needed a chart fixed or a patient calmed. But when a nameless man arrived under Navy SEAL escort with his airway closing and blood vanishing inside his body, Rachel moved like someone trained in rooms without windows and missions without records. One SEAL watched her hands, heard the words she used, and asked the question that froze the hospital. "Where did you learn that?" Before we continue, hit like, subscribe to Silent Badges, and comment where you are listening from. Welcome to the channel. Stay until the end, because Rachel's secret does not just save one man, it exposes why he was brought to that hospital in the first place. Step away from the patient, Nurse Whitmore. You are not the star here. Dr. Everett Sloan said it loud enough for the camera crew to hear. Rachel Whitmore stepped away. Not because he was right, because the elderly woman on the gurney was stable now, and Rachel had already done the part that mattered. St. Adrian Medical Center was drowning in Thursday night chaos. Stretchers lined the walls. Families stood shoulder to shoulder near triage. Monitors screamed from 3 directions. A child coughed into a blanket. A drunk man in Bay 5 sang the same verse again and again. Rachel moved through it all in bright blue scrubs, loose at the shoulders and faded at the knees. She was 34, white American, 5'5", lean from years of running before sunrise. Her light brown bob was pinned back badly. Her eyes were bright blue and too observant for someone who tried so hard to look ordinary. A thin scar crossed her left wrist. A tiny pale mark hid behind her right ear. The woman on the gurney coughed hard. Rachel glanced at the oxygen tubing. "Her cannula is kinked," Rachel said quietly. Sloan did not look down. "I said step away." Rachel reached anyway and straightened the line. The monitor climbed from 89 to 94. Sloan saw the number. Then he saw the camera. His smile tightened. "This is why hierarchy matters," he said to the crew. "Good intentions can become dangerous when they are not guided by expertise." Sloan leaned closer. His cologne cut through bleach and sweat. "You were hired to assist, not to improvise, not to perform, not to make yourself important." The elderly patient gripped Rachel's sleeve. "Don't let him send you away." Rachel squeezed her hand once. "I'm not far." Sloan heard that too. "Supply closet," he snapped. "Inventory, now." "Dr. Sloan," Tessa said. Rachel caught the oxygen issue. Sloan turned slowly. "Did I ask you to narrate, Nurse Morgan?" "No." "Then don't." Rachel picked up an empty supply bin. "Yes, doctor." Sloan smiled. There, that was not difficult. The door opened. Tessa slipped in. "I hate him." "That is a heavy emotion for a Thursday," Rachel said. "How do you stand there while he humiliates you?" "Practice." "That is not an answer." "It is the only one I have." Tessa crossed her arms. "He does this because you let him." Rachel looked up. The room changed when Rachel really looked at someone. Her gaze did not sharpen. It settled, calm, direct, too complete. Tessa straightened without meaning to. Rachel softened her face. "No. He does it because administration rewards it." "Still." "Tessa, anger is useful when it has somewhere to go." "And yours?" Rachel looked back at the shelves. "Mine stays employed." A shout came from the hall. "2 ambulances inbound. 1 respiratory. 1 unknown altered mental." Tessa opened the door. "You coming?" Rachel picked up the bin. "I was assigned inventory." "Rachel. I am also still a nurse." The first ambulance brought a middle-aged man with asthma and fear in his eyes. Sloan swept in front of the camera and performed command. Rachel stayed back, handed medications before anyone asked, corrected a resident's dosage quietly, and kept the patient alive while Sloan accepted praise. That was how the evening went. At 7:12 p.m., a man in a charcoal suit entered the ER alone. He did not approach triage. He stood near the vending machines and scanned exits, cameras, ceiling vents, staff hands. Rachel saw him before security did. Not because he looked dangerous, because he looked trained not to look dangerous. His shoes were too practical for the suit. His right thumb rubbed the side seam of his trousers twice. His face stayed blank, but his eyes counted everything. He was not a patient, he was searching. Rachel looked away before he reached her. Old rules rose inside her. Do not meet the eye of someone looking for a ghost. Can I help you? Sloan asked. Are you in charge? Sloan smiled. Clinically, yes. Then I need a secure bay prepared. No media, no unnecessary staff. Sloan laughed once. Sir, this is a hospital, not a spy movie. Rachel's fingers tightened around the chart in her hand. People who said that had never seen the real thing. The man opened a badge wallet just far enough for Sloan to see. Not enough for the camera. Sloan's expression shifted. Annoyance, interest, calculation. Turn the cameras off, the man said. Sloan hesitated. Rachel saw the hesitation. So did the man. Sloan wanted the drama. He wanted whatever was coming. The man's voice sharpened. Doctor, turn them off. Sloan signaled the crew. Give us 5. The cameras lowered, but not enough. Rachel looked at Tessa. Tessa understood and stepped between the lens and trauma hallway as if by accident. Sloan went pale for half a second. Then his ego recovered. Bring him in. Trauma 1. The man shook his head. No cameras, no public access, no announcement. Of course. Sloan turned and raised his voice. Clear Trauma 1. Federal case incoming. The suited man's jaw tightened. Rachel closed her eyes for 1 second. Too loud. Too public. Too stupid. The ambulance bay doors burst open, but it was not an ambulance. 2 black SUVs screeched to the curb outside, followed by a dark tactical van with no markings. The ER went quiet in a wave. 4 Navy SEALs came out first. Not polished, not ceremonial, battered, armed, and moving like men who had already lost too much time. 2 paramedics pushed a stretcher at a near run. The patient on it was strapped down, gray-faced, eyes half open. Blood soaked the lower edge of his shirt. A clear mask fogged weakly over his mouth. 1 SEAL pressed hard against the patient's upper abdomen. Another carried a sealed black case. The man in the suit stepped forward. Trauma 1. Now. The lead SEAL scanned the room. He was tall, broad, early 40s, with a dark beard and a scar cutting through one eyebrow. His eyes passed over Rachel, then moved on. Good. Rachel followed at the edge of the team with airway supplies. Sloan placed himself at the head of the stretcher. I'm Dr. Everett Sloan. You're in the best hands in the state. Sloan lifted the mask and barked orders. Prep for intubation, CBC, CMP, type and cross. 2 large bore IVs. Rachel looked at the patient's lips, blue at the edges. His chest barely moved. Something was closing low and fast. She stepped closer. Sloan blocked her. Not you. We may need airway backup. We have physicians. You have residents. His eyes flashed. You are done correcting me tonight. The suited man watched. Rachel lowered her voice. If this patient is under federal protective status, close the room, limit personnel, post security at both entrances, and remove the camera crew. Sloan scoffed. Thank you for the television advice. The patient made a sound, not a cough, a failing airway. Rachel stepped to the bed. His airway is closing. Sloan grabbed the laryngoscope. I am aware. Rachel saw his hands. Too slow. Too theatrical. He was thinking about being watched. 76. Sloan tried to intubate. The tube met resistance. He adjusted and tried again. The monitor screamed. 72. Rachel's world narrowed. 2 minutes. Maybe less. That was all he had. She heard the old radio in her head. Asset going cold. Rachel stepped forward. Move. Sloan did not. I said move. The voice that came from Rachel was not loud. It was worse. It carried command. Sloan froze. The lead SEAL's eyes snapped to her. Rachel took the airway kit from the tray. Neck extended slightly. Suction. Scalpel. 6.0 tube. Now. A resident stared. Rachel looked at him once. Now. He moved. Sloan recovered. You do not have authority to perform. He will be dead before you finish that sentence. The suited man said, Let her work. Sloan spun. You don't understand hospital protocol. The lead SEAL stepped closer. I understand, dead. Let her work. Rachel palpated with 2 fingers. 1 breath, 1 angle, 1 controlled incision. Precision, not panic. Tessa handed the tube with shaking hands. Rachel did not shake. Bag. Tessa connected it. Rachel ventilated once. The patient's chest rose. The monitor changed. 72 became 78, then 84. Someone gasped. Rachel secured the airway and looked at the SEAL applying pressure. Move your hand 1/2 inch lower. He obeyed instantly. Harder. He has junctional bleeding under the line. The SEAL pressed. Rachel cut the shirt open. There it was. A small puncture under the ribs, almost hidden by blood and fabric. Not a bullet. Too narrow, too clean. Rachel's stomach tightened. Ceramic spike. Old tradecraft. Who removed the object? No one answered. The suited man went still. Rachel looked at him. Who removed it? It broke off during extraction. Then part of it may still be inside. Ultrasound. A resident pushed the machine forward. Rachel scanned fast and saw dark fluid blooming on the screen. Free fluid. He is bleeding internally. Sloan stared. How would you know that? Rachel ignored him and opened the black case the SEAL had brought. Inside were field supplies, combat gauze, hemostatic agents, a compact clamp set, things that did not belong in a civilian trauma bay unless the people carrying them expected the worst. You can't use that, Sloan said. Rachel was already packing the wound. The lead SEAL leaned over the patient. Stay with us, Falcon. Rachel paused for 1 heartbeat. Falcon, not a real name. A field name, CIA, if she had ever heard one. Her eyes flicked to the patient's face. Older now, blood in his beard, lines at the eyes. She knew him from a file with black bars. Jonah Vale, CIA operations officer. The man had once carried a list that kept 3 embassies from burning. Now he was dying in her ER. Rachel packed deeper and spoke close to his ear. Falcon, listen to my voice. Breathe with the bag. Do not fight the tube. You are not in the alley. You are inside a hospital. Your package is not lost unless you die. The patient's hand twitched. The SEAL with the scar went rigid. What did you say? Rachel focused on the wound. Pressure holding. The blood pressure climbed. 68, 74, 80 systolic. 2 minutes had not passed. The room stared. The famous doctor, the residents, the nurses, the armed men. The lead SEAL stepped toward Rachel. Where did you learn that? Rachel kept her fingers locked. Learn what? The airway, the pressure, the phrase. Rachel looked at the monitor. Or now. He did not move. That phrase was used during a CIA extraction in Eastern Europe 9 years ago. The suited man looked sharply at him. The SEAL ignored everyone else. I was there. Rachel's hands did not move. The monitor beeped. The patient lived. For now. The SEAL leaned closer. I watched a field officer save an asset in a safe house bathroom with no lights and 1 working hand. Rachel finally looked at him. A little of the quiet nurse disappeared. Not all. Just enough. The SEAL's expression changed. Your name wasn't Whitmore then. The ER fell silent. Rachel held pressure on the wound and said softly, Get him to surgery. The SEAL's jaw tightened. Then he turned to the room. You heard her. Move. This time everyone moved. The elevator doors closed around Jonah Vale, the surgeon, Tessa, and 2 armed men. Rachel stayed in Trauma Bay 1 with blood on her gloves and command still hanging in the air. Rachel stripped off her gloves and dropped them into the biohazard bin. Sloan found his voice first. Security. No one moved. His face twisted. I said security. The charge nurse Paula looked at the blood on the floor, then at Rachel. Doctor, she saved him. She performed an unauthorized surgical airway in my trauma bay. Rachel washed her hands at the sink. You failed twice. Sloan blinked. The sentence was not loud, but it broke something. You nearly killed a federal patient because you were protecting your ego, Rachel said. Water ran over her fingers. Sloan pointed at her. You are suspended pending review. No. You don't decide that. Rachel turned off the faucet. Neither do you during a federal protective incident. The man in the charcoal suit stepped into Trauma Bay 1. He had been on the phone in the hallway, using clipped phrases and no names. "My name is Daniel Keene," he said. Rachel said nothing. "You understand why I need to ask who you are?" "I'm Rachel Whitmore, registered nurse." That answer is insufficient. It is the only answer relevant to patient care. The lead SEAL returned from the surgical elevators. He had blood on his forearms. "Falcon is in OR 2, he said. "Surgeon says your pressure bought him the window." Rachel nodded. The SEAL studied her. "Chief Petty Officer Aaron Rourke. Good for you." Tessa, returning with the empty cooler, made a strangled sound that might have been a laugh. Rourke almost smiled. "You always talk like that to people who outrank you?" "Only when they ask questions in front of civilians." That landed. Keene looked at the room. "Clear it." Paula hesitated. "Rachel is on shift. This concerns national security." Rachel's jaw tightened. National security, the most useful excuse in America. The room cleared. Tessa paused at the door. Rachel gave her a small nod. "Go. Do not ask yet." When the door closed, Keene placed a small device on the counter. It emitted a faint buzz. "White noise," he said. Rachel glanced at it. "That model is 3 years out of date." Keene's expression changed. Rourke muttered, "There it is." Rachel regretted the sentence immediately. Old habits were small leaks. Enough of them sank a life. Keene folded his arms. "Falcon is a CIA operations officer carrying information about a planned attack on a Naval Command ceremony tomorrow morning." Rachel absorbed it without visible reaction. Rourke watched. "His convoy was hit 12 blocks from here," Keene continued. "We believe someone inside the route security chain leaked the movement." "Then this hospital is compromised," Rachel said. "Possibly. Not possibly." She pointed toward the hall. "Your arrival was announced loudly. Media were present. Staff used the word federal in public. Security has 3 blind angles between Ambulance Bay and Trauma 1. 2 men entered the waiting room after your SUVs arrived and did not check in. 1 left when he saw the SEALs. The other is still near vending." Keene turned toward the hall window. "You saw all that?" "I have eyes." "No," Rourke said quietly. "You have training." Rachel said nothing. Keene leaned closer. "I ran your name. Rachel Whitmore exists. Nursing license, tax records, apartment lease, employment history. Before 3 years ago, thin. Lots of people have thin records." "Not with your hands." Rourke stepped in. "I know the technique you used. Not the airway. The phrase. People say strange things under stress. You said, 'Your package is not lost unless you die.'" Keene looked at him. Rourke continued. 9 years ago, Prague. CIA safe route burned. SEAL advisory element pulled perimeter while a field officer kept an asset alive after he took a blade under the ribs. Same airway. Same pressure shift. Same phrase. Rachel's pulse stayed even because she forced it even. "Sounds like quite a story." "I never saw her face," Rourke said. "Power was out. She had blood in her hair. But I remember her voice." Rachel looked at him for 1 second too long. Rourke exhaled. "It was you." Keene's hand moved toward his phone. Rachel's voice changed. "Do not make that call." Keene froze. Not because she threatened him, because she sounded like someone who had given orders before consequences had names. "You are dealing with an active leak, an injured CIA officer, and a hospital full of civilians," Rachel said. "If you start calling old numbers about me, you widen the circle and maybe alert the same people who hit your convoy." Keene studied her. "Who were you?" "I was someone who left," Rachel said. Rourke softened by 1/2 inch. Keene did not. "Can you help keep him alive if whoever attacked him comes here?" "That depends." "On what?" "On whether your people stop treating this like a standard protection detail and start treating it like cleanup after a burned intelligence route. Lock down surgical floor quietly. Move your perimeter inward. Replace hospital security at stairwells with your own people in plain clothes. Take camera feeds but assume they are already watched. No radio chatter with names. No call sign Falcon inside the building. Rourke nodded. Keene asked, "And the media crew?" "Confiscate raw footage under federal authority before Sloan leaks it because his pride is bleeding." Keene's eyes narrowed. "You read him fast. He is not complicated." A knock hit the trauma bay door. Tessa opened it a crack. "Rachel, Dr. Sloan is in the hallway with the hospital attorney. They're saying you attacked a patient." Keene swore under his breath. Rachel walked to the door. "Ms. Whitmore," she said, "you need to come with us immediately." "For what reason?" "Administrative review." Sloan stepped forward. "For assaulting a federal patient and violating every scope of practice rule in medicine." Rachel glanced at the camera. The red tally light reflected faintly in the lens. "Recording anyway." "Turn it off," Rachel said. Sloan smiled. "You don't give orders here." Rachel walked to the camera, removed the battery, and placed it on the counter. The operator stared. Rourke laughed once behind her. Sloan's face flushed. "You just destroyed hospital property." "That was not hospital property." Keene stepped out and showed his badge. "Every second of footage recorded during the federal patient's arrival is now evidence." The attorney paled. Sloan latched onto the only piece he understood. "This nurse endangered my patient." Rourke came beside Rachel. "No, she saved our asset after you lost the airway." The word asset hit the hallway like a dropped instrument. Keene closed his eyes. Rachel looked at Rourke. "Careless." "Noted." Sloan pointed at her. "You think you can humiliate me?" Rachel's face stayed calm. "No. You did that without help." The nurse's station went silent. Then the surgical floor intercom screamed. "Or 2 needs emergency blood release. Patient crashing. Repeat. Or 2 patient crashing." Rachel was already moving. Keene grabbed her arm. "You're not cleared for OR." Rachel looked at his hand. He released her. "Then clear me on the way." They ran. Rachel took the stairs instead of the elevator. Rourke followed. "Why stairs?" "Elevators can be stopped." Keene cursed and followed too. On the 3rd landing, Rachel froze. A service door stood open half an inch, fresh scuff mark near the frame. Keene reached for his weapon. Rachel shook her head. "Too visible. Seal this stairwell behind us." Rourke signaled to a seal below. They reached door 2. Chaos met them at the doors. A surgeon shouted for suction. An anesthesiologist called numbers that were too low. A nurse tried to hang blood with shaking hands. Jonah Vale lay open on the table, pale as wax. The surgeon looked up. "Who are you?" Rachel put on sterile gloves. "The reason he made it to you." The surgeon did not argue. "Fragment nicked a branch vessel near the liver. We control one bleed, another opens." Rachel scanned the field. There. A faint gray residue around the wound track. Ceramic spike with anticoagulant coating. Not designed to kill fast. Designed to make treatment fail. "Stop chasing the obvious vessel," Rachel said. The surgeon glared. "What?" "It's coated. Anticoagulant compound. Debride around the track and packed deeper than normal." "How would you know that?" the anesthesiologist asked. "Because his blood is not behaving like blood." The surgeon hesitated. Rachel said, 2 minutes ago you were losing him. Try something else." He tried. Finally, the monitor steadied. The surgeon exhaled. "I have control." Rachel stepped back. Jonah Vale's eyes opened for one impossible second. His gaze found her. His lips moved around the tube. No sound. Rachel leaned close. He shaped one word. "Ledger." Then his eyes closed again. Rachel went still. Keene saw it. "What did he say?" Rachel looked at Vale's hand. His fingers tapped against the sheet. 3 taps. Pause. 2 taps. Left side. Rachel turned toward the OR wall. Behind a portable monitor stand, taped under a plastic lip, something small and black waited. She removed a thin data wafer sealed in medical tape. Keene's face changed completely. Rourke whispered, "Package." Rachel looked at Vale. "You stubborn man." Keene reached for it. Rachel pulled it back. "Not here. I'm federal." "So is whoever leaked your route." Rourke stepped between them slightly. "She's right." Rachel lowered her voice. Vale hid this because he knew they would search him. If they already know it is missing, they may already be inside. The lights flickered, once, then steadied. Everyone froze. Rachel looked toward the OR window. Hospital lights did not flicker like that in one isolated wing unless someone touched a circuit. Rourke spoke into his radio. "Status on surgical floor." Static answered. Rachel's stomach dropped. Keene tried his earpiece. Nothing. Rourke looked at Rachel. "You called it." A crash sounded from the far hallway, then shouting, then two sharp pops, suppressed shots. The OR went silent. Rachel tucked the wafer into a glove packet and sealed it. "Move Vale." The surgeon stared. "He is not stable for transport. He is less stable if armed men find this room." Another pop sounded closer. Rourke drew his weapon. Keene did too. Tessa looked at Rachel. "What are we doing?" Rachel picked up a stainless steel instrument tray with one hand and an oxygen tank wrench with the other. The quiet nurse was gone. Not dramatically. She simply stood differently. Shoulders set, chin level, eyes empty of fear. Rourke whispered, "Prague." Rachel opened the OR door a fraction. Two shadows moved toward them. Hospital badges clipped too neatly, shoes too quiet, hands too ready. Rachel said, "Back from the door." Then she stepped into the hall. The first intruder rounded the corner dressed as an orderly. Too clean, too calm. His eyes passed over Keene and Rourke, then landed on Rachel in bright blue scrubs. He dismissed her first. That was his mistake. Rachel stumbled backward like a frightened nurse. "Please," she whispered, "don't shoot." The man raised a suppressed pistol from under a folded blanket. Rachel threw the stainless tray into the wall beside him. Not at him. Beside him. The crash stole half a second. Rachel closed the distance in that half second. The oxygen wrench struck his wrist. The pistol dropped. Her elbow hit his throat. Her foot hooked his knee. He hit the floor without a shout. Rourke stepped out and caught the weapon. Rachel was already dragging the man behind a supply cart. "Zip ties." Keene stared. Rourke snapped, "Move." The second intruder backed around the corner, hearing something wrong but seeing too late. Rachel had no gun. She had a hospital blanket. She snapped it into his face, crashed him into a linen cart, and drove two fingers into the nerve below his ear. He folded. Rourke pinned him. Keene cuffed the first man. Rourke looked at Rachel. "You fight like agency." Rachel checked the second man's pockets and found a transmitter, 2 access cards, and a photo of Jonah Vale taken from a distance. "No," she said. "I fight like someone tired of dying men in hallways." Keene's radio crackled back to life. "Agent Keene, respond." "Keene, surgical floor compromised. 2 hostiles down. Need federal lockdown now." Static. Then, "Copy, team's moving." Rachel studied the transmitter. These 2 were not the whole team. Rourke scanned the hall. "How many?" "Enough to send decoys." Inside, Vale's blood pressure had dropped again. Rachel checked the wound, the blood bags, the monitor. "He needs balanced transfusion, calcium, warming, and less panic." The anesthesiologist blinked. "Less panic is not an order." "It should be." Rachel leaned close to Vale's ear. "Falcon, you are still not done. Your ledger is safe, but if you die, I will be very annoyed." His eyelids fluttered. The monitor steadied slowly. When Vale was stable enough to move, Rachel pointed to the floor map. Service Corridor C, Tessa at the head, Rourke front left, Keene rear, no names. Rourke raised an eyebrow. "Why front left?" "Your right shoulder is stiff. Front right requires a faster draw angle." "That injury is classified." "Your posture isn't." They moved. At the first blind turn, Rachel stopped. A smear of water marked the floor near a janitor closet. Too fresh. No cleaning cart. She mouthed, "Closet." The door exploded outward. A third attacker slammed into Rourke. A weapon came up toward the stretcher. Rachel jammed a mop handle through the gurney rail into the attacker's forearm path. The shot went wide. Ceiling tile burst. Tessa screamed but kept her hands on the airway. "Good girl." Rourke recovered and drove the attacker into the floor. Keene secured him. Rachel checked Vale. Airway intact. Blood pressure unchanged. "Keep moving." They reached the old ICU wing. closed for renovation and wrapped in plastic sheets. A voice came from the far end. Far enough. A man stepped from behind the plastic. Hospital security uniform, older, calm, armed. Rachel recognized him. The man near the vending machines. The one who stayed. Keene aimed. Drop it. The man smiled. If I drop this, the device under the patient detonates. Rachel did not look down. Looking down would confirm fear. You have something that belongs to my employer, he said. Rachel said, your employer should hire better men. You are not what you pretend to be. Neither are you. Rachel kept her eyes on him. Device under the mattress means you needed access before OR. But you said move him another 10 feet. That means it is not pressure. It is range. The man's smile disappeared. Short-range receiver, Rachel said. Left pocket. He raised the gun. Rachel lifted the sealed glove packet from her scrub pocket. His eyes flashed. There it is. The ledger, Rachel said. Bring it to me. No. His gun shifted toward Tessa. Rachel's voice sharpened. Look at me. The command hit hard enough that even the attacker obeyed. You point that gun at my nurse again, and I stop negotiating. The old ICU wing went silent. You were agency, he said. Rachel did not answer. You were the woman in Prague. Rourke's eyes moved to her. Keene's breath caught. The man laughed softly. My employer said you vanished. Rachel said, people say many things when they survive failure. He aimed at her chest. You should have stayed vanished. Rachel dropped the glove packet. The man's eyes followed it. Rourke fired. One round struck the man's shoulder. Keene tackled him before he could fall onto the receiver. Rachel kicked the gun away and tore open the man's jacket. She found the device in the left inner pocket. Active light blinking. Rourke moved beside her. Can you disarm it? It is not a bomb trigger. She turned it over. It is a signal repeater. For what? Keene asked. Rachel looked at Vale. For whoever is tracking him. Then the fire alarm triggered. Red strobes filled the old ICU. Sprinklers burst overhead. Tessa shouted, his tube! Rachel shielded the airway from water with her body. The alarm was not meant to burn the hospital. It was meant to force evacuation. Move every patient. Open every door. Create chaos. They're flushing us, Rachel said. Rourke wiped water from his face. Where? Not out. Down. There is no down. There is. She pointed to a service hatch. Maintenance stair to sterile processing. From there, tunnel to radiology. Keene stared. How do you know this building better than hospital security? I read evacuation maps. By 2:40 a.m., Jonah Vale was alive inside a guarded ICU room. The ledger was sealed in federal custody. The ER remained in lockdown. Patients were safe. Staff were shaken. Dr. Sloan had been taken to a conference room with hospital legal and 2 federal agents. Rachel stood near the ICU window, staring at city lights. Rourke approached quietly. You were in Prague? Yes. I thought that woman died. She almost did. What happened? Rachel watched her reflection in the glass. Bright blue scrubs, blood on the sleeve. A nurse and a ghost sharing one body. The leak came from inside, she said. Same pattern as tonight. Root burned. Team hit. Asset wounded. 2 officers died buying time. Afterward, the agency buried the mistake and promoted the man who caused it. You left. I refused to sign the report. Keene joined them with a secure tablet. The wafer is real, he said. Names, transfers, compromised routes. Whoever hit Vale tonight is tied to an internal selling channel. Rachel closed her eyes. Inside CIA? Keene's silence answered. There is a name on the first layer, Keene said. Deputy Director Calvin Price. Rachel's eyes opened. Price, the man who signed the Prague report. The man who smiled at memorial services and called dead officers brave while using them as sandbags for his career. Rourke saw her face. You know him. He is why I left. Keene's phone rang. He answered, listened, and went pale. What? Rourke asked. Keene looked at Rachel. Calvin Price just issued an internal security notice. He claims Rachel Whitmore is a rogue former officer wanted for questioning in connection with the attack on Jonah Vale. Tessa whispered, "He's blaming her?" Keene nodded. "And he's sending a federal extraction team here to take her into custody." Rachel looked through the ICU glass at the sleeping hospital beyond. She had run once. Running again would not save anyone. Rachel straightened. The nurse in bright blue scrubs became something older, something colder. "Lock down this floor," she said. Keene stared. Rourke nodded once. Rachel continued, "No one takes Vale. No one takes the ledger. And no one takes me without saying in public why they are afraid of a nurse." Tessa's eyes widened. Rourke almost smiled. "There she is." Rachel looked at him. "Chief." "Yes?" "Front left." This time he did smile. "Yes, ma'am." The first federal team arrived at 3:06 a.m. They did not come through the ambulance bay. They came through the front doors in dark suits. 7 people with badges raised before anyone asked who they were. Hospital security moved aside too quickly. Nurses at the desk froze with coffee cups halfway to their mouths. Rachel watched them on the ICU camera feed. Agent Keene stood beside her, jaw tight. "They are early," he said. Rachel did not blink. They were already close. Rourke checked the hallway, 2 fingers against his earpiece. "My people have the stairwell." "Not enough. They are federal agents." "Maybe." Keene looked at her. "You think Price sent a dirty team?" "I think Calvin Price never sends anything he cannot deny." Tessa stood near Jonah Vale's bed with one hand on the ventilator tubing. The young nurse had stopped shaking 20 minutes ago. Fear had not left her. It had changed shape. "What do you want me to do?" she asked. Rachel looked at her. "Keep him alive." Tessa swallowed. "That sounds simple when you say it." "It is not simple. It is just clear." The ICU doors opened at the far end of the corridor. Dr. Everett Sloan stepped out first. He looked smaller than before. His white coat was damp from the sprinklers. His famous face was gray under fluorescent light. Behind him came the federal team. The lead agent was tall, clean-shaven, and built like a former linebacker who had discovered expensive tailoring. His badge flashed too fast to read. His eyes swept the corridor and stopped on Rachel. "Rachel Whitmore," he called. The name moved through the ICU like cold air. Rachel stepped away from the monitor. Rourke moved with her. The lead agent lifted one hand. "Step away from the patient." Rachel said, "Identify yourself." "Special Agent Daniel Marks, Federal Protective Response." Keene's brows narrowed. "That unit does not have medical extraction authority. It does tonight." "Under whose order?" Marks looked back at Rachel. "Deputy Director Calvin Price." There it was, spoken in the open. Rachel felt the old scar behind her ear tighten. Sloan found courage in the presence of badges. "She has no authority here," he said quickly. "This woman interfered with patient care, assaulted armed personnel, and performed unauthorized procedures in my emergency department." Rachel turned her head slowly. "Your patient was dead in 90 seconds. Sloan's mouth opened. No sound came out. Marks stepped closer. "Ms. Whitmore, you are being detained for questioning related to a national security incident." "Am I under arrest?" "You are being detained." "Then say the charge." "This is classified." Rachel nodded once. "Convenient." The woman behind Marks moved her hand toward her jacket. Rourke's voice filled the hall. "Hands where I can see them." The air changed. Every seal in the hallway shifted half an inch. Not dramatic, not loud, but every line of sight became a weapon. Marks looked at Rourke. "Chief Petty Officer, stand down." "No. You are obstructing a federal operation." "I am protecting a living CIA witness under joint military medical custody." Marks smiled. "You have no such authority." Rourke's face did not move. "Then call my command." Marks did not. Rachel noticed that first. So did Keene. The lead agent wanted speed, not verification. That meant his legal ground was thin, or non-existent. Rachel walked to the nurse's station and picked up the desk phone. Marks stiffened. "Do not touch that." Rachel dialed hospital overhead. Her voice came through every speaker on the ICU floor. "This is Rachel Whitmore in ICU. A federal team led by Special Agent Daniel Marks has arrived under verbal authority from Deputy Director Calvin Price. They are attempting to remove a critical patient witness and detain clinical staff without a written order. All cameras remain recording. All staff stay in place. Do not turn off audio. Marks's face hardened. Cut the speakers. Nobody moved. Rachel set down the phone. Sloan stared at her like she had struck him. You just broadcast classified information. No, Rachel said. I broadcast names. She looked at Marks. Classified is what men like Price call crimes when they need silence. Marks lunged. Rourke caught him by the wrist before he reached Rachel. The movement was small. The message was not. Marks's agents raised their hands toward their weapons. SEALs answered from both sides of the corridor. Nurses ducked behind carts. A monitor alarm chirped inside Jonah's room. Tessa shouted, "Rachel!" Rachel was already moving. She turned her back on the guns and entered the room. Jonah Vale's pressure had dropped. 72/44. His oxygen saturation had fallen to 88. Ventilator pressure was climbing. Rachel leaned over him. "Talk to me." Tessa pointed to the tubing. Resistance increased. Breath sounds reduced on the left. Rachel listened. Not enough air. The tube was still in place. The problem was below it. "Left tension physiology," Rachel said. Tessa froze. "What?" "Needle." Tessa grabbed the kit. Mark shouted from the doorway, "Stop her!" No one did. Rachel tore open the sterile wrapper, found the second intercostal space by touch, mid-clavicular line, cleaned fast, and drove the 14-gauge catheter in. A hiss of trapped air escaped. Jonah's pressure climbed. 78, 84, 91 systolic. Oxygen rose to 94. Tessa stared. You knew before the monitor did. The monitor is always late. Jonah's eyelids fluttered. He was sedated, but not gone. His fingers twitched. Once, twice, then 3 times. Rachel went still. Rourke entered behind her. "What?" Rachel watched Jonah's hand. He tapped again. 3, 1, 4. Keene appeared at the doorway. "That a code?" Rachel said. "Dead drop protocol." Jonah tapped again. 2, 7, 7. Rachel looked toward the ceiling camera, then at the wall clock, then at the old whiteboard near the bed. The numbers were not coordinates, not a room, a file prefix. "Keene," she said. "Yeah." "Does the ledger have a locked partition labeled 314277? Keene pulled the tablet and moved fast. Marks heard it. So did his team. The woman behind him reached for her weapon. Rachel saw her reflection in the glass cabinet. "Down," Rachel said. Tessa dropped. The first shot shattered the medication cabinet. Rourke hit the shooter from the side, driving her into the door frame. Keene pulled his own weapon and fired once into the floor near Mark's feet. "Everyone freeze!" he shouted. The corridor erupted into controlled violence. The SEALs moved like a single organism. One man stripped a weapon. Another drove an agent into the wall. Rourke pinned Mark's face first against the nurse's station. Rachel stayed with Jonah. She pressed 2 fingers to his neck. Pulse thready. Still there. Tessa crawled back up. "I'm here." "Good." Rachel looked at the broken cabinet. A vial had shattered. Glass glittered on the floor. Blood dotted Tessa's cheek from a tiny cut. Rachel wiped it away with her sleeve. "You did well." Tessa breathed hard. "I almost ran. You came back." In the hall, Marks cursed into the linoleum. Rourke zip-tied his wrists. "You just authorized an armed assault inside an ICU," Rourke said. Marks spat. "You have no idea what you are protecting." Rachel stepped into the doorway. "I know exactly what I am protecting." Keene's tablet chimed. He had opened the partition. His face changed. Not surprise. Horror. "Rachel." She knew before he said it. "The partition has live target lists," Keene said. "Hospitals, safe houses, field clinics, names of officers under medical cover." Rachel's throat tightened. "Under medical cover?" Keene nodded. "Doctors, nurses, humanitarian workers." Rourke looked from Keene to Rachel. "Price is burning assets." "No," Rachel said. Her voice came out colder than she intended. "He is selling them before he burns them." Marks laughed from the floor. "You think you can stop this with an ICU phone and a nurse badge?" Rachel crouched beside him. For the first time, she let him see her eyes. Not the nurse, not the woman who apologized when doctors bumped her shoulder, the other one. "Daniel," she said softly. His smile faltered. "You will tell Agent Keene who gave you the illegal order, what frequency your team used, and where Price wants Jonah Vale moved. Then you will hope the clean parts of the government find your family before the dirty parts realize you failed." Marks whispered, "You do not know anything." Rachel stood. "I know enough." Keene stared at her. "You really were CIA." Rachel did not answer. She returned to Jonah's bedside. The patient who had started it all lay pale beneath hospital lights, a tube in his throat, a secret in his blood, and a ledger full of names that could topple men who had spent years learning how never to fall. Rourke entered after handing marks to 2 loyal agents Keene had personally verified. "You okay?" he asked. Rachel adjusted Jonah's IV. "No." Rourke waited. "But I can function." "That was not my question." Rachel looked at him. The question lingered between them, too human for the hour. Outside, men were being arrested. Inside, monitors beeped and Tessa quietly changed a soaked dressing with hands that no longer trembled. Rachel said, "When I left, I told myself I would never again decide who deserved saving. And tonight everyone deserves saving except the men who sold them." Rourke nodded. "Then we start with Vale." Keene came back in. "Marks is talking. Vale was supposed to be removed to a federal holding site." Rachel closed her eyes. "There is no holding site." "No. A kill box." Keene nodded. "And Price is moving now. He knows Marks failed. He has issued a national alert naming you as armed, unstable, and linked to the attack on Jonah Vale." Tessa looked up sharply. "That is insane." "That is effective," Rachel said. Rourke's phone buzzed. He read the message and his jaw tightened. "My command wants clarification." Rachel almost smiled. "That means Price called someone above them." Keene stepped closer. "We need to move Vale." "No." Both men looked at her. "That is what Price wants. Movement creates exposure. Exposure creates accident. We stay here." "In a civilian hospital?" Keene asked. "In the one place where every hallway has cameras, every patient has witnesses, and every lie has to pass through nurses who now know exactly what is happening." Tessa straightened. Rachel looked at her. "Can you wake every charge nurse without using hospital email?" Tessa nodded. "Text tree, old school." "Do it." Rourke looked toward the corridor. "And us?" Rachel picked up a clean pair of gloves. "You hold the doors." "What will you do?" Rachel looked at Jonah Vale. "I am going to keep the witness alive long enough for the truth to outrun the lie." By 4:18 a.m., Mercy North looked less like a hospital and more like a city preparing for siege. Nurses moved crash carts in front of doors, taped paper over windows, and passed real instructions on handwritten notes, while the public computer system showed false transfers. Ordinary hospital confusion became armor. Rachel watched it happen with quiet pride. No federal agency could improvise like nurses. Tessa returned with a clipboard. Charge nurses are looped. ER, surgical, pediatrics, cardiac. They all know not to release Vale without my voice or yours. Good. Across the room, Jonah Vale stirred. His sedation was light now, too light for comfort. But Rachel needed him awake enough to communicate. A file could be challenged. A living witness mattered. His eyes opened, full of panic. Rachel leaned into his line of sight. "Jonah, you are intubated. You are at Mercy North. You are alive. Blink once if you understand." He blinked. Rachel placed a marker in his hand and slid a white card beneath his fingers. "Write if you can." The letters came out crooked. "Price not top." Keene whispered, "Who is?" Jonah gathered strength and wrote one word. "Harbor." Rourke stiffened. "Harbor is not a person," Keene said. Rachel answered, "It is a program." "You know it?" Rourke asked. "I heard rumors, the kind that made people disappear from conference rooms." Jonah wrote again. "Medical cover list, sold." Then his hand went slack. The monitor alarmed, pressure falling. Rachel pressed on Jonah's abdomen, firm, distended. Internal bleed is back. Keene pointed toward the elevators. Or 2 floors down. No, Rachel said. Movement is exposure. Then what? Tessa asked. Rachel looked toward the old procedure room across the hall. It had lights, suction, oxygen, and doors. Not an OR, not even close, enough for a desperate chance. We stabilize here and call Dr. Patel. 5 minutes later, Dr. Arjun Patel stormed into the ICU in green surgical scrubs and fury. What did Celebrity Boy do now? He asked. Rachel pointed to Jonah. CIA witness, abdominal bleed, not safe to move. Need damage control across the hall. Patel stared. That is a procedure room. Correct. That is insane. Also correct. Patel looked at Rourke, the SEALs, the armed agents on the floor, and the nurses waiting for orders. Fine. Get lights, suction, blood, betadine, laps, scalpel. I want a real count, even if this is madness. In 6 minutes, the procedure room became the best battlefield or Mercy North could produce. Jonah was moved 20 feet under armed guard and 3 nursemaid decoys. 2 empty gurneys rolled toward the elevators. A third carried a covered mannequin from training storage. Anyone watching remotely saw 3 possible targets and no certainty. Rachel scrubbed at the sink. Patel looked at her hands. You have done this before. Yes. Where? Places without sinks. Patel grunted. Fine, you assist. Sloan appeared at the door. You cannot be serious. Patel did not look up. Everett, if you speak again, I will have a nurse sedate you. This woman is under federal suspicion. This woman saved the patient you nearly lost. Patel held out a gloved hand. Scalpel. Rachel placed it in his palm. The incision opened fast. Blood welled. Patel packed and explored. Rachel suctioned, counted sponges, called pressures, and anticipated every move before he made it. Patel noticed. You are not a regular nurse. Rachel held suction steady. Tonight I am exactly the nurse he needs. Outside, the hallway erupted. A body hit a wall. Keene appeared at the window and raised 2 fingers. 2 threats. Rachel looked back at the field. If she left, Jonah could die. If she stayed, the hallway could fall. Patel saw her face. Do not move. Whoever you used to be the nurse now. The words hit harder than he knew. Rachel stayed. A man in maintenance coveralls appeared at the side entrance with a suppressed pistol and a hospital badge that did not belong to him. Tessa saw him first. The man aimed at Patel. Rachel threw the metal basin. It struck his wrist and spoiled the shot. Tessa hit him with an IV pole from the side, screaming as she did it. Rourke burst through the door and disarmed him before he could recover. Tessa stood over the intruder, shaking again. Rachel said, Tessa, breathe in, breathe out. Lock the door again. Tessa nodded. She locked the door. Patel kept working as if assassins in procedure rooms were merely another staffing issue. Bleeding controlled, he said. Pressure 94, Rachel answered. Temporary closure. He needs a real OR when this circus ends. It will end. You sound certain. I am motivated. The procedure ended at 4:59 a.m. Jonah Vale lived. Again. Then the PA system crackled. Calvin Price's voice filled every hallway. Attention Mercy North staff. Rachel Whitmore is a dangerous former intelligence officer. She is armed, unstable, and using medical personnel as cover. Do not assist her. The room froze. Sloan smiled from the doorway. Price continued. She is wanted in connection with the attempted murder of CIA officer Jonah Vale. Tessa whispered, but she saved him. Sloan stepped forward. Did she? All I see is a patient cut open in a storage room by a woman with a classified past and no privileges. Patel said, I authorized the procedure. Sloan ignored him. The board will hear about this. Rachel looked at him. You still think this is your stage? It is my hospital. No, it is theirs. She pointed through the glass at the nurses, techs, respiratory therapists, residents, security guards, and frightened patients watching from doorways. The people who clean blood off floors. The people who hold hands when families cannot arrive in time. You never owned this place. You only performed in it. Sloan's face hardened. You self-righteous little nurse. The words echoed. A respiratory therapist said, she caught a vent error in Bay 6. An ER nurse added, she stopped a medication overdose Sloan signed without reading. One by one, voices rose. Small truths, ordinary truths, the kind Sloan had buried under charisma and fear. Rachel looked directly at the nearest security camera. You asked where I learned that technique. I learned it because men like Calvin Price sent officers into impossible places, then abandoned them when politics got inconvenient. I learned it in safe houses without power, in alleys after extractions went bad, in rooms where names could not be spoken and survival had to be quiet. Keen's eyes widened. Rachel continued. My name is Rachel Whitmore. I served as a CIA field officer under non-official cover. I left after Deputy Director Calvin Price falsified the Prague report and buried the deaths of 2 officers to protect a mole inside the agency. Sloan whispered, You cannot say that. I just did. Then Jonah Vale moved. Rachel put the marker back in his fingers. He wrote one shaky sentence on the card. Price is the mole. The PA system went dead. For 3 seconds, nobody breathed. Then Keen's phone exploded. So did Rourke's. So did every federal radio in the hall. Keen answered first. His face changed as he listened. CIA Inspector General just opened an emergency channel. They saw the broadcast. Price's authority is suspended pending review. Rourke's phone buzzed. My command confirms. We hold this floor. No one removes Vale. Then the west stairwell alarm sounded. A nurse shouted, Smoke in radiology. Price could not take the witness, so he would make the witness disappear in a disaster. Rachel pulled off her bloody gloves. Move Vale now. Keen stared. You said movement was exposure. Fire changes the equation. Rourke asked. Where? Pediatrics, Rachel said. Independent oxygen, sealed fire doors, and parents everywhere with phones. Witnesses, Rourke said. Lots of them. They moved in less than 2 minutes. Jonah Vale rolled through Mercy North wrapped in blankets. Monitors balanced on poles, one chest catheter secured, one surgical airway protected by Tessa's hands. Rachel walked at his side. Rourke's team formed a moving wall. Keen cleared corners with his pistol low and controlled. Children in pediatrics peeked from rooms as the strange procession entered their wing. A little boy with a dinosaur blanket looked at Rachel's blood-stained scrubs. Are you a superhero? Rachel stopped for half a heartbeat. No, she said gently. I am a nurse. The boy nodded like that was better. Maybe it was. They secured Jonah in an isolation room with glass walls and too many witnesses for murder to hide comfortably. Keen entered with a phone pressed to his ear. Price is missing. Rachel looked at the hallway full of frightened parents, nurses, and children. He is coming here. At 5:31 a.m., the lights went out. Emergency power snapped on 1 second later. Red backup glow filled pediatrics. 3 soft knocks came from the north service door, not random. A code. Agency field rhythm. Old, forgotten by most. Rachel's blood ran cold. Rourke raised his weapon. Rachel held up one hand. The door opened. Calvin Price stepped into the red light wearing a dark overcoat and the calm face of a man who had never cleaned up his own blood. Rachel, he said. She stood between him and Jonah Vale. Calvin. Here, Price looked around the pediatric hall, at the parents filming, at the SEALs aiming weapons, at the nurses holding children back. You always did love an audience when you wanted moral authority. Rachel said, that was your mistake. What was? Thinking witnesses weaken operations. They do. No, they weaken lies. His eyes flicked to Jonah's room. You have no idea what you are protecting. You sold medical cover lists. I protected national interests. You burned officers. I removed liabilities. Rachel took 1 step forward. You killed Miriam and Cole in Prague. For the first time, Price's smile faded. I did not pull the trigger. You gave the route to the men who did. They were compromised assets. They were officers. They were expendable. A mother in the hallway gasped. Phones captured everything. Price realized it too late. His hand moved to a small device in his coat pocket. Remote trigger. Down! Rachel shouted. Rourke fired into Price's shoulder as Rachel slammed him against the wall. The device skittered across the floor. Tessa kicked it under a medication cart. Keene ripped out the battery. A muffled boom shook the lower floor. Not here. Radiology. A diversion charge. Rachel pinned Price's wrist. He looked up at her, teeth clenched. You should have stayed a ghost. Rachel leaned close. I tried. She zip-tied his hands with a pediatric tourniquet. It did not suit me. Calvin Price was arrested in a pediatric hallway at 5:39 a.m., while 3 parents recorded it on cell phones, and a 7-year-old asked if the bad man needed a Band-Aid. No one laughed at first, then Tessa did. It came out broken and exhausted. Rachel stayed kneeling beside Price until Keene's verified agents took him. This time she checked every badge, every face, every order. Price looked at her with disgust while she pressed gauze to the wound in his shoulder, still saving everyone. Rachel taped the gauze down. No, just refusing to become you. They led him away. Outside, dawn pressed pale light against the windows. The smoke alarms finally stopped. Mercy North exhaled. The CIA Inspector General arrived with a clean team at 6:12 a.m. Dr. Sloan tried to speak to the first official, who looked important. Agent Keene cut him off. Dr. Sloan is under review for obstruction, patient endangerment, and unauthorized contact with a compromised federal official. Sloan's face went white. I was misled. Rachel looked at him. You were flattered. Patel walked past him carrying a cup of coffee. Everett, fame is not a credential. By 7 a.m., Jonah Vale was in a real operating room under heavy guard. Rachel stood outside the OR window until Tessa brought her a blanket. You are shaking, Tessa said. Rachel looked down. Her hands were trembling, not from fear, from stopping. I thought you never shook. Everyone shakes eventually. Rourke appeared with 2 coffees. Price is talking, he said. He confirmed harbor, medical cover lists, extraction routes, names of officers placed in humanitarian and hospital networks. Vale found the pipeline and tried to run. Rachel watched the surgery through glass. And Prague? Rourke's voice softened. He admitted he rerouted your team. Rachel closed her eyes. Miriam's laugh came back first. Cole's terrible singing came next. Then the alley, the smoke, the radio silence. Rourke did not touch her. He just stood close enough that she did not feel alone. After a moment, Rachel opened her eyes. Good. That is all? No, it hurts, but it is true now. At 9:43 a.m., Jonah Vale came out of surgery alive. Patel found Rachel in the waiting area. He will need ICU for days, maybe weeks, but he has a fighting chance. Rachel breathed for what felt like the first time since the ambulance doors had opened. The story escaped by noon. Not the classified parts, but enough. A nurse had saved a CIA officer in 2 minutes. SEALs had defended an ICU. A famous doctor had tried to stop her. Price had been arrested on camera. Rachel wanted neither sainthood nor fame. She scrubbed dried blood from her forearms in a staff bathroom. The water ran pink, then clear. Tessa waited outside with clean, bright blue scrubs. Why nursing? Tessa asked. After all that. After the CIA. Why here? Rachel looked at the clean scrubs in her hands. Because hospitals were supposed to be honest. Because patients arrived without cover stories. Because pain did not lie. Because a body bleeding on a gurney asked only one question. Will someone help me? Rachel said. Because saving people without asking who they worked for felt like freedom. Tessa nodded slowly. Did it work? Rachel looked toward the ICU. Sometimes. That afternoon, the hospital board suspended Sloan pending investigation. He called Rachel unstable. He called the night a misunderstanding. He called himself the victim. Rachel finally looked at him. No, I listened when patients were dying. You mistook silence for weakness. That was your mistake. Sloan's jaw worked. You think one dramatic night makes you better than me? No. One dramatic night revealed what was already true. Sloan was escorted out. No cameras, no applause. Just a man who had built his life on being watched leaving a room where no one wanted to look at him. The board wanted to give Rachel a title. She refused. If you want to fix this ER, stop looking for one hero. Build a system that listens before heroes are necessary. Patel muttered, annoyingly correct. 2 days later, Jonah Vale woke without a tube. Did we win? He rasped. Rachel checked his pulse. Define win. Price? In custody. Harbor? Exposed. Jonah closed his eyes. Good. After a moment, he whispered, Prague. I saw the report. Saw what they blamed you for. Knew it was wrong. I was too scared to speak. Then I found Harbor. Thought maybe if I exposed Price, it would pay a debt. Rachel looked at the man in the bed, pale, broken, trying. It was not your debt. Felt like it. She understood that too well. I am sorry, Jonah said. Rachel folded the chart closed. For being scared. For staying quiet. Rachel thought of Tessa returning to the bedside, of nurses speaking in the hall, of ordinary people choosing courage one small step at a time. Then she said, Start talking now. Jonah nodded. I will. A week later, Mercy North held a staff meeting in the cafeteria. Tessa walked to the front. I was in the room, she said. Rachel taught while everything was falling apart. She told me where to put my hands, when to breathe, and when to come back. She made me believe I could still be useful while terrified. Tessa looked at the room. That is what nurses do. We do not wait to stop being afraid. We work afraid. The cafeteria went silent. Then people stood. Nurses first, then techs, then residents, then doctors. The applause was not loud like television applause. It was deeper, earned, painful. Rachel let it wash over her and did not run. Afterward, Rourke found her near the service elevator and handed her a small envelope. Inside was a simple blue medical cross with a small anchor threaded through it. On the back, someone had written 2 words, front left. Rachel swallowed. You remembered that after Prague, Rourke said. I remembered everything after Prague. So did we. He said the agency wanted her back as a consultant. The Navy wanted tactical medicine training. No, Rachel said. What do you want? Rachel listened to the ordinary sounds of the hospital. Sacred sounds. I want to work my shift. And when the next impossible thing happens, Rachel clipped the patch inside her locker badge holder. Then I will be here. 3 months later, Mercy North was not fixed. Hospitals are never fixed. But it was better. Sloan resigned before the investigation finished. His show disappeared first, then his sponsors, then the invitations. He left medicine quietly, which was the loudest ending a man like him could suffer. Calvin Price pleaded guilty. Harbor collapsed. Officers under medical cover were relocated. Families in Prague received corrected reports with real names attached to blame. Tessa became the ICU nurse everyone requested during difficult cases. She still shook sometimes. She worked anyway. Rourke sent one message from an unknown location. Patient lived. Team says hello. Front left. Rachel saved it. She did not answer for 6 hours. Then she wrote back. Tell them to hydrate. At 2:11 a.m. on an ordinary Thursday, Rachel stood in the ER medication room restocking syringes when Tessa found her. Incoming trauma, Tessa said. Bad one. Rachel closed the drawer. ETA, 2 minutes. They walked together toward the ambulance bay. No SEALs, no CIA, no federal conspiracy. Just rain against glass and a paramedic shouting through the doors. Teenage boy, car versus pole, airway unstable. Rachel put on gloves. Her hands were steady. Tessa stood beside her. Tell me what you see, Rachel said. Tessa looked at the patient as the gurney rolled in. Jaw trauma, blood in airway, chest rise uneven. He is scared. Rachel nodded. Good, start there. The boy's eyes found Rachel's. He could not speak. He did not know her past. He did not know Prague, Harbor, Price, Rourke, Jonah Vale, or the question that had cracked open a hidden life. Where did you learn that? It did not matter. All that mattered was the answer her hands gave every night. Here, now, for you. Rachel leaned over him. You are safe, she said. We have you. And this time, when the room filled with noise, Rachel did not feel like a ghost wearing scrubs. She felt like a nurse. Exactly a nurse. Nothing less. Everything more. The end. If this story kept you listening until the end, please like the video, subscribe to Silent Badges Stories, and comment where you are listening from. Welcome to the channel.